Hi everyone. So tonight we're going to work on a Copic painting. I like to call this painting the Tempest. And to start, we are just going to start coloring in or outlining the main images in the picture, which are a tornado in the upper left-hand corner. And to do that, I just drew an oval at the top on an angle. And then I'm just filling in the edges of the tornado, being sure to give it a ragged edge so that we can follow along with that later when we color in. Now I'm just outlining the umbrella, and this is going to be an umbrella that a lady is standing under. It's going to be a red umbrella, and I'm just drawing in the edges of the umbrella here, making sure that the spot where I draw in the lady's body, I want her to be in between two of the spokes. So you just want to make sure that you have that half circle right in the middle of your umbrella where her back is going to start. And then I'm just drawing in the outline of her arms. She has bent arms because she's holding on to the umbrella. And then I just traced an outline of the land beneath her, and then there's a little bridge in front of her. Okay, now we're going to start shading in our tornado. And to do so, I'm just using a C1 marker, a C3 marker, a C5 marker, and a C7 marker. And I'm going to have the edges of the tornado be darker and then have the middle of the tornado be the lightest gray markers. But I also want to make sure that the mouth of the tornado at the top, that has good definition. So I'm going to make sure that the outline is rimmed in a C5 marker. Okay, the shading on the left side, I'm going to do darker. So for that, I'm starting with a C5 at the edge, and at some point I'm going to darken it even more to a C7. And I'm just going to keep dragging the marker in lighter and lighter shades from the edges of the tornado towards the middle. So it makes it look as though it's kind of swirling and twirling, and it gives it definition on the edges. And for the mouth of the tornado, it's really, really simple hand movements. You just want to keep drawing swirls just over and over again with all different shades of your gray Copic markers between C1 and C5. With mostly using the lighter colors and using the darker colors sparingly in the mouth. And this part, there's no real right way to do this. You can make your tornado as light as you like or as dark as you like. I guess I was in a dark mood when I did this, so I just kept going over and over the tornado and made it darker and darker, but if you would like it to be lighter, that's fine also. For the edges of the tornado, I want to give it the sense that there's a lot of motion and commotion in the air. So I'm just taking my Copic marker and in a flicking motion, just flicking out from the edges of the tornado in my darkest color, being a C5 on the right side and then C5 also on the left side. And then I'm just going to keep going over that with lighter and lighter markers until I get the definition that I'm looking for. And here I'm just, again, I'm darkening up the edges of the mouth of the tornado with my dark marker and then going over it with a lighter marker just to blend it all in. Now we're going to start filling in the sky on the right hand of the page, and to do so I'm just taking a light marker, and it's either C0 or C1. I think either would work fine, and I'm making sure to go with diagonal strokes, and eventually I'm going to have the right side of the sky blend into the edges of the tornado so that it all looks pretty uniform, but at the same time I want the right side to be a little lighter because the tornado hasn't gotten there yet. And the mood of this piece, is basically a lady who is standing with an umbrella, watching a tornado that is in the distance. So I'm just, again, working on the blend between the edges of the tornado and the sky. Now we're going to move on and start coloring in the land that is beneath the tornado. And to do this, I'm going to use YG markers in 91 to 97. And to start, I'm going to start with 93. And the way that you want to fill this in is to basically start at the edge of the ground from the top point and just flick downwards and go across the page that way. That'll give you the nicest shading. And then you're going to do the same exact thing from the bottom, flicking downward up to the middle to meeting that way. When you're coloring with Copics, it's always good to do that, to kind of start at your end points and move inwards to the middle. You could get uneven color if you start coloring from the middle and go outside. Okay, now I took a YG97 marker and I just drew some lines extending from the bottom of the tornado, and I just splayed them kind of across the land. So it looks like there's, you know, that's the point of the tornado, and those are the points that are kind of emanating from it, if that makes any sense, which it might not, but. And now I am just working on the blend for the ground, just using my YG 91 to 97 markers until I get the shading I'm looking for. Here there's a little body of water that the woman is standing in front of, and we're gonna use BG 000, BG 70, and BG 72 to fill those in with the darker marker on the outside edges of the water and it being lighter on the inside. Now we're going to shade in the bridge. There's a bridge above the water. And to do that, I'm just going to very simply color it in with E43. Now we're going to start working on the lady and her umbrella. And to do that, we're just going to outline the whole umbrella with, I think this is R24 or R14. It doesn't really matter at this point. We're just trying to get the shape down, and then we'll work on the coloring later. So I'm just outlining her arms, the bottom of her coat, and the umbrella itself. We're going to make the umbrella be a darker bunch of red shades, and the coat is going to be a little bit lighter, just so there's some definition between the coat and the umbrella. I'm filling in the entire umbrella in R24, and then we are going to add the point of the umbrella with N8, and then we're going to draw in the spokes of the umbrella, and each spoke is going to start at the black top, and then it's going to end at one of the edges of the spoke. Those are the pieces of the umbrella that are extending the farthest out. Now I'm taking an R37 marker, and we're going to add some shading to the bottom and top of the umbrella. And to do that, I'm just starting either at the top and flicking downwards, or starting at the bottom and flicking upwards. Because again, when we're coloring, we always want to start coloring at our endpoints, working our way inward, because that will give you the best color definition, I think, at least for this painting. Now here, I thought that the middle of my umbrella was a little bit too dark, so I'm just going to lighten it up with an R08. You could use a colorless blender, but I would recommend against that, because that would take away too much color and you could be stuck with something that looks like a real pale patch. So if you ever have a dark color that you want to lighten up, I recommend just using a lighter shade of that same color, which is what the R08 was here instead of the colorless blender. Okay, now we're just shading in her coat, and to do so, we're going to leave a little shadow underneath the end of the umbrella. And then we're also going to darken the edges of the coat because we want that to appear darker. We're going to add a belt with E44, and then leave a little strip in the middle that we're going to color in with E43, just so there's a little bit of variation in the colors. It looks like there's a little highlight. Now we're going to fill in the stone bridge, and to do that, I'm just taking an E44 marker And I'm just filling in like random squiggles to, you know, be the stones in the bridge. Now I'm going to go over it with a C5 marker, but only on the bottom portion of each of the squiggles because we want to make a little shadow. And then I'm going to blend everything together with a C3 because I don't want any of the colors to be too bright here, with the exception of the lady's umbrella and the lady's coat. I want everything else to be kind of muted. So we're going to finish up the sky, add a little bit more shading with C3. Now we're going to work on the ground underneath the tornado. And I tried to draw a series of trees that look like they're getting kind of swept up and sucked into the tornado. And I started with an E29, which in hindsight I think was probably too bright of a brown. If I had it to do over again, I probably would have used a duller brown or even a gray. On the right, I started to make a barn with some E43s and E44 a little bit. And then I decided, I didn't really want the barn to be there, so I just turned it all into kind of like a messy dirt cloud. And then I darkened up the left side as well where the trees are to try to color over some of the, you know, the brown that's a little bit too bright. So you still can kind of see on the left that those are trees being sucked up, but I just wanted it all to just look like the tornado was just kind of encircled in this big like dirt cloud, to make it look really, really menacing, like this really menacing thing is coming for the lady on the right, but she could always run away. She doesn't have to stand there, I guess. All right, so let's just finish up the sky and finish up the last touches on the tornado. And now we're going to add some highlights with a white gel pen. I did two versions of this card, one with light white gel pen and one with heavy white gel pen. And this is the version with the heavy gel pen. And I think I went a little too far. But the mood that I was trying to get across when I did this was that, you know, just kind of really anxious and frenetic kind of background. And for the second card that I'll show you in a second, that has a little bit of a more muted and calm kind of highlights to that one. I just want to mention that there's a poem that I wrote that accompanies this painting, and I'm going to post a copy of it in the description box to the YouTube video if you want to check it out. And if you do, I'd be really happy to hear what you think and what the poem means to you. So drop me a comment if you do that. And now that we have finished our painting and added the highlights, let's turn this Copic painting into a card. And actually, we're going to turn it into two cards. So I also did another version of this where there was less of the white highlights. The version on the right, the highlights, I want it to look like really frenetic and electrically charged and just a little bit crazy. And then the one on the left is a little bit more calm. So I thought I'd, you know, since I had a lot of different sentiments, why not make two cards with this and see what the possibilities were. The sentiment I'm using is a new stamp set from Hutson, and it features a number of stamps about being strong and staying brave, and I thought that that set just fit perfectly for this painting and then for the card that we're going to make out of it. And then I embossed the word stay, which is another sentiment in that set, in white embossing powder on a piece of black cardstock. And that's going to finish off version 1 of the card. And then for the second one, we're going to adhere it to a standard A2 size card base. The Copic paintings that I do, they're always on, or not always, but mostly always on a standard card base on 110-pound Nina cardstock. And here I just took a sentiment from that same set that says "You are brave" and embossed it in silver embossing powder on black cardstock. And there you have it. These are my two cards. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope you try this painting out. It's a lot of fun.